Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD is a very weak entry.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD is a nasty piece of shit, and as a classic Tony Hawk fan, I'm disgusted and angry for having played it.
I don't think it's the worst in the entire series, but it's certainly far from being able to recommend to a normal person. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. If you want to see a review dogging on this game, I don't think this is it, and I feel like there are other reviewers to do a better justice than I could. Reason I'm making this video is because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 is coming out soon, and I want to see what Vicarious Visions is doing with their HD remake of the beloved classic series and comparing it to Robomoto's. Because I can pick on Robomoto all day, but for now, I just want to point out on stuff I was thinking about when I was playing HD.
Really?
Also, keep in mind that I've been playing the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 demo, so there might be stuff that will change within the final product. The aesthetics to me stood out first. The iterations of the maps in HD seem more like modernizations of the maps that you've already played. It might be obvious, but Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 levels feel more like it has its own twist to it, as if it's a whole new area. One of the few examples that made me realize it is when I was playing Mall. Mall in HD feels like it was like a Mall from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, except modernized, as if Neversoft made the game just then. Shops are modern, everything feels clean, everything is maintained. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 makes it look like it has been abandoned since the 1990s, with decay, dirty water, out-of-date shops. Another example is the warehouse. In the original in HD, it's a wet and worn area with a lone window and a couple of light bulbs lighting up the area. In HD, the warehouse is lit up by a bunch of windows that let the sun gleam in into the playing field. You can even see the outside area. Keep in mind, this is not me saying Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 has a better look than HD, or the other way around. It was just pretty nice to see a modernized version of a Neversoft styled map, even if it wasn't really visually striking. However, I still prefer the way Vicarious Visions is bringing the game into high definition, because it is such a refreshing take to see a map I've seen so many times, just in a different style. Although some of these maps do have that 2012 filter, like Hangar. However, I do think that Vicarious Visions still try to see what Robomoto was trying to do, and give him a one-up. Like Venice Beach is a more apparent one, since in HD and in 1 and 2, it takes place during the sunset. Although I do think it's darker in 1 and 2 than it is in HD. Another example is Hangar. In Pro Skater 2 and Underground, Hangar looks worn, decorated with washed up and worn billboards and plywood. Meanwhile in HD and 1 and 2 it looks clean, as if it's pristine condition, with pretty signs and a more metallic finish to it. Skaters in HD have a certain look to them. When I saw them, I thought they were like action figures. I don't think this is what they were going for, but like, that's how they look like, to me. I don't know. But you know what, it was 2012, it looks off, but you know what, I can pass it. However, the UI and heads-up display is atrocious, with so many random fonts, and for some reason, whenever you're doing switch tricks, it appears gold, while special tricks appeared green. And the final score will remain white, even though in previous games, it will change once you got your final score. Though in HD, it has a nice little gesture whenever you rack up a big combo, stuff like pumping their fist or basically signifying like, yeah, I did that. Meanwhile in Pro Skater 1 and 2, the skater just constantly shouts in the middle of a combo, like Dante from Devil May Cry, which isn't bad. But it can get annoying due to its frequency. I still kinda prefer the 1 and 2 style on that behalf because I do like the Devil May Cry games. And it is pretty funny seeing funny skateboarding man go woohoo! Now we all know about the gameplay, it's not very good. But I did notice some stuff. Like when I stopped, I could kinda still move when I'm stopped. Which isn't a big deal, but in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, you couldn't do that. In Pro Skater 5, there was a manual push mechanic. Although it's still not very good in HD, at the very least you can look around and gather your surroundings when you're doing that. Although there is the problem that when you do start accelerating, there's a small little delay when you're braking. Meanwhile, in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, in almost every entry in Neversoft, you could brake and turn at any time when you're standing still, which is an odd thing to remove from HD to 5. I think it's a massive downgrade. However, you already know playing HD is just not great. Ollie makes you float for a bit, grinding is very slow and unsatisfying, balance meter is wonky, tricks look weird, it pauses a little bit before you snap into a grind, sometimes hitting the rail at a certain angle it will detach you from a rail instantly, and so on. The thing I'm not the fan of the most in HD is reverts. In the original release of HD, there wasn't any reverts in the base game. Well, at least on the PC version. If you want the reverts in each HD, you either have to buy the revert pack that adds 4 new characters and 3 new maps from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, or download a community pack that fixes the game. Kind of. Reverts are binded to triggers, which is fine, that's in every game, right? But for some bizarre reason, they decided to bind turns to the triggers as well. So you could accidentally pull the trigger way too early and you could still bail it. But that's not even the only problem with reverts. The timing on the reverts is so weird because it's so precise, and if your timing is ever so slightly off when reverting or trying to manual, it'll end the combo. You can't even ollie out of reverts like you can in Pro Skater 3 or 4 or any of the games. And the thing that makes me the most uncomfortable when reverting is that you do not slow down. So if you're going incredibly fast, the revert will not help you and you will lose your bearings a lot because you will be going way too fast and you will not understand what's going on. You can't even move around the camera, so the right stick is almost completely pointless in this game. Probably because in the original 2 games you didn't have control over the camera, but at least those games had a proper camera, so whenever you're near a wall or at a certain angle, the camera would move ever so slightly so you could see where you're going. Again, compared to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, all of it works just like the original ones. Although you cannot lock the camera. I played the PC port and I think this is the worst version of the game. It lacks basic graphic settings, you can only change the resolution. The in-game heads-up display is very buggy and can basically break if you tab out, lacking online features, controls you can't rebind. Hell, it doesn't even have multiplayer. There's not even online multiplayer like the console versions. It doesn't even have button prompts. I've been playing this with the Xbox 360 controller, but it only shows the keyboard binds. So most of the time, I get confused as to which input I have to put in. Audio also constantly breaks, so anytime I'm in the air, I still hear it as if I'm rolling on concrete. Music constantly plays the same song over and over again, even after I finish the game. They're even missing the gap sound effect. I don't understand how you leave that out, but they did. And worst of all, the PC version received no patches. The only patch it got was the revert pack, and if you didn't buy that, well, good luck to you. But I assume you already know that, and I am getting a little bit off track. The fact is, Pro Skater HD is still an entry that will be somewhat fascinating, because it has a lot of interesting ideas when it came to recreating the classic games. Visually, the game might strike you as interesting, or something you'd see out of games from 2012. You might be interested in to see how Robomoto tried to modernize the series as a whole, from the physics to the music choice. It has a lot of different things going for it, especially since this was Robomoto's first Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game that didn't have that stupid peripheral attached to it. It's such a weird stepping stone in the Tony Hawk series.
Or you could just say, the game fucking sucks!